How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Emerald City Hockey post-game live after that great 4-2 victory for the Seattle Kraken over the Utah Hockey Club. Philip Grubauer looking fantastic in this one. Like, oh man, he's back. Like, that is the best performance I think we've seen from him in a long time. Like, long time. He looked really good. I mean, he was making some fantastic I wouldn't say they were desperation saves, but they were very clutch saves, moving laterally. He was fighting through traffic, seeing the puck, making some good snags out of the air there. He was just dialed in. He looked, you know what it was? It looked like a Joey performance, right? Or at least like some of those Joey performances that we've seen this year, where really kind of comes in and is able to, steal a couple goals away from the other team, and it opens up the door for the Kraken to walk out of the building with 2 points. You know, I know there's a lot of people on Team Tank that probably don't love that, but the bottom line is it was great to see Grubauer have one of these performances yet again, and for him to play this well and just come back strong the way that he seemingly has since he's been called back up. So it was really nice to see that from him. Got to see more of Yanni Newman. Thought he still played a pretty good game, despite everything. You're still, you're seeing some of the rookie creep in there a little bit. But still, I thought he was pretty solid. Shane Wright gets a boost in ice time over the next one. So over the last game. So, some good stuff there. And then, of course, Ellie Tolvanen getting a pair of goals and an assist, just to throw that on there as well. Just a fantastic game from number 20, who gets to 20 goals for the first time in his career this season. Really great game from the Finn there. All right. For those of you probably noticed, I am at home. I am not at the game. Back started acting up a little bit today, and I had to make sure that I was going to be good for our watch party at our wonderful sponsor, Queen Anne Beer Hall. Really looking forward to that one. And so I texted RJ. I tweaked it, and then I tried walking down to the monorail to get to the arena, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to push it. I don't want to push it because I want to be available for this watch party next Wednesday, March 19th, 6:30 for that game when Seattle is going to travel to Minnesota to face the Wild. Going to have Kraken tickets to raffle off at the second intermission. If things went well, a wonderful member of the community out there went ahead and donated something really cool for the raffle as well. I don't want to announce it until I know RJ for a fact has it in hand, but I think it's going to be a very, very sought after raffle prize for that one. So looking forward to that, and obviously looking forward to being with everybody at the beer hall next Wednesday. So should be a good time. Going over into chat, Trish kicking us off with the LFG. Let's freaking go. I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, this was a fantastic game from the Seattle Kraken. They, were able to kind of roll all four lines. All four lines looked pretty good. They took advantage of Utah having some mistakes early on. Utah's passes weren't really crisp early on. The defense kind of wasn't really there for them. Love the first goal from Ellie Tolvanen, but really from Chandler Stevenson, right? Firing that puck, firing it low, kind of passing off the pads to Ellie Tolvanen. It was maybe more of a rebound than a pass off the pads, which I've been calling for a lot. If you join us for any of our live game commentaries on Patreon, you know how often I call for passes off the pads from this team. I'm going to count it as a pass off the pads because I'm biased and I want them, and I want that to have worked out and led to a goal. But you can make the argument it was more of a rebound. But either way, it was a great play from Chandler Stevenson. Just get the puck on net, get it low. Utah had no defense anywhere in the vicinity. They were just completely out of it. And Ellie Tolvanen was able to collect the big rebound that was given up from Vejmelka there and then bury it for his 20th of the season. It was just such a fantastic play. And to kick off the game 51 seconds in and you get that goal just helped kind of set a tone for really the rest of the game. And yeah, Utah was able to go up 2-1 in the second period, but Kraken battled back, get that late goal in the second period from Brandon Montour, and then really they just had a lot of momentum in the third period. There was that prolonged sequence where Utah really poured it on after the Capo Caco goal, and Utah was just really trying to tie the game up. But that's where Philip Grubauer really came through clutch, and also the Shane Wright line out there, the fourth line, Shane Wright, Mikey Asamont, and Ty Karchi, I thought did a fantastic job when Utah was really trying to change the momentum. They were trying to get back in the game, try to tie the game up at 3. That fourth line went out there And alongside Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour, they were stuck kind of because of a defensive, shift and everything. Montour, I think, was stuck out there for over 2 minutes. Just that group of five, they were really able to keep Utah to the perimeter. They weren't really able to give them that much. They blocked several shots. Grubauer did a great job seeing things through traffic and making saves when he had to. That, I think, was really the key moment of the game where Seattle was able to kind of step up and put it away. And it's been a while since we've seen like a true 5-man unit weather that kind of storm for the Kraken, right? We've seen good 5-man unit defensive play this year, but it's been very there's been long gaps in between, right? It's been spared. And to see that for that long, where it went on for like over a minute, and Utah was desperate, and Utah had their best line out there, and they had guys with skill out there, and you have your fourth line out there, and you've got defenseman one who's over 2 minutes time on ice. To see that sequence was really, really impressive, and I really appreciated that one. Light with the super chat. Shane had 5 tonight to preempt any convos. 5, 5, 5, 5 what? Shane Wright had 15 minutes. Maybe that's you got the one on the 15 there. I'm trying to think of what. Yeah, 15. There we go. Yes, Shane had 15 minutes time on ice. Like I said, his time on ice really got worked back in this one. I think the power play helped that, but also that line was just kind of going, and he was getting opportunities. And then they were starting to get more shifts than previous lines. He has more shifts in this one than Yanni Newman. Like I said, Yanni Newman maybe is a step back in his second game, doesn't quite have that same adrenaline level from making his NHL debut in this one. Saw a little bit more of the rookie stuff, but Shane Wright back to the ice time we were seeing before he got moved down to the fourth line. So even though he's on the fourth line, he's getting the normal ice time that we've kind of come to expect for him here recently, and it was over the 15-minute mark. So I'm with you there, Light, just to kind of get that out there before everybody starts talking about it in this one. Walt, what a tank! Yes, if you are Team Tank, and there's a lot of reasons why the Kraken should be in that position. This isn't a great game for everything, just because this is one of the games that they probably should have lost. Realistically, when talking about the ice time battle, not the ice time battle, the standings battle, this is one of the ones that you probably should drop. These kind of like questionable, maybe winnable games, you kind of want to drop those to get down there. Nashville's been winning. You want to try to jump them if possible, although I think the Ducks beat them earlier. It's gonna be tight as far as them getting into that top 4 or not come the end of the year. But I can't get mad. Like, Julia, I'm Team Tank, but Gru deserved that one. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, Grubauer just played so well in this one. I can't say no to this game. Tolvanen getting over 20 goals on the season. Capo Caco getting on the board. Like, I can't say no. I just can't. I just can't. Your head Grubauer was awesome. Philip Grubauer, what an insane game by him. Trish, Gruby. And then Freddie asking, did he play his way back onto the team for next year? And then Bryce with the Gru. I don't think he played his way back onto the team for next season. I think the contract situation with his contract and then Joey Decord's extension kicking in next year, it's just too much money in the crease. There's just no way. And so I think Gru's still going to be gone regardless. Now, if he continues to play this way down the stretch, what maybe changes is, instead of a buyout, maybe, this is a huge maybe, by the way, somebody is maybe interested in him, but I still think we're looking at a buyout. He'd have to have games better than this one, and he'd have to have several of them, I think, before somebody would be willing to trade and take on the contract. So, and even retaining, like if the Kraken retained half, I think it just makes more sense cap-wise for them to buy him out than to even do that. So, I think we're still looking at that situation. George, I honestly wish I could get excited, but watching Gru finally turn it on only to hurt the tank just makes me angry. We talked about this on the Discord, right? Like, this was going to be some people's kind of take on it, and it was going to be how some people were going to feel. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong for feeling that way, George. But it is kind of interesting that yes, Grubauer kind of finally figures it out, and then he figures it out, and what does it do? It kind of hurts what the Kraken are otherwise trying to do. It it's tough. It just always kind of going against fans' wants, Philip Grubauer, right? Heather, Gru looked phenomenal. How many saves did he make in that minute and a half? They couldn't get the puck out. I'm so glad he's got his groove back. I'm with you, Heather. That sequence, like I talked about earlier, that was my favorite sequence of the game. I thought that was a really important sequence for the Kraken. I think it was huge that Shane Wright was leading the line that was out there for that sequence. I think that was really impressive. But Grubauer, especially kind of all throughout tonight, but especially during that sequence, he probably had I can think of 2 saves. I think he had one other one. So I think it was only 3 saves that whole sequence, but there was a couple shot blocks. And really, the defense just did a good job of forcing Utah to have to cycle around the zone. They just really didn't give up any gaps for anybody to step up in and take a good shot on Grubauer. But I really think that that sequence was just fantastic there for them. Young Murta, I'm living for the Mechanics tonight. Yes. When is Jared McCann, man? He's just so snake bitten. It's crazy how snake bitten Jared McCann is right now. I don't think we've ever seen a sequence last this long, where Jared McCann has not been scoring, right? Where he has not been able to get on the board with a goal, and he just hasn't been able to I was going to say be that dangerous. He kind of gets like 1 or 2 really dangerous chances per game. I see he has 4 shots in this one, but things are really going tough for him right now. I'm wondering, just to kind of bring up like Shane Wright, Yanni Newman, and kind of the situation there, because I really think Yanni Newman's here for the homestand. Team has not confirmed that, but they've like loosely said things that kind of, give us that idea. I really do wonder if next game we see a Shane Wright, Yanni Newman, Jared McCann line. If they move Jared McCann off of center back to the wing, and they move Shane Wright up, just because Shane Wright got more ice time this game. Like I've been praising that sequence where that fourth line was out there and they were able to do a great job in the defensive zone. I still think that he doesn't need to be playing with Ty Cartier and Mikey Asamot. He can play with better players. And so I do wonder if maybe just to kind of help get Jared McCann going again, see what kind of chemistry Shane Wright and Yanni Newman can have together. I do wonder if we see a line like that, because you could still have Jared McCann pulling the weight defensively for that line and kind of playing that game. I just think that, he's going to be more dangerous for you if he's on the wing and he doesn't have to think as much about defense out there. And, Shane Wright is no slouch defensively. Like he can handle things there. It's okay. So I do wonder if we see something like that for the next game. And if anybody, asked about that further ahead in chat, there's my answer. Christian, woo, disco dance party, was pulling for the tank, but I'm never turning down a fun win. And good on Groovy. I'm sure he had fun. That's where I'm at, right? Like we all logically know the tank is better, but it's too hard not to get excited when stuff like this happens. Like I cheer when they score. How can I not be excited when stuff like that happens, right? That is where I'm at. I'm right there with you, Christian. And yes, I'm happy to have the dance party here. Kraken Queen, how Guru got his groove back. He did. It's all about going down there. I'm telling you, Coachella Valley just heals all with so many of the guys in this organization. It's really crazy. Got to bottle the water down there and ship it up to Seattle or something. I don't know what's going on, but it is just fantastic for them. Sean, that was fun. Again, I say Kraken Mammoth Stadium Series in Salt Lake. NHL, make it happen. It would be a lot of fun. I do think these teams are a good kind of matchup for each other where they're at. I think Utah's got that kind of higher end skill, but they lack a lot of the discipline to really kind of execute it consistently throughout a game. And the Kraken, they've kind of got that depth and that ability just to kind of put pressure on those young guys on the Utah side in a really fun and interesting way. They really do play some fun games against each other there for sure. And I got to think a Salt Lake game would probably be beautiful. Just, weather wise, scenery wise, like the different places you could do it. I think it would be gorgeous to see something like that. More love for Phil Grubauer here in chat. Love to see it. Lindsay, hello from CPA. Great to see a win with my women's team, Pineapple Express. Choo choo. That is awesome, Lindsay. Glad you and your team were able to have fun there on Women's Night. That is fantastic. That is really, really cool. And then did I see that we set a new record for the jersey for the jersey auction in today with one of the jerseys. I think I saw that in the Discord. I'm sure somebody will let me know in the chat later on here. Byron, nice to see Tolvanen become an official 20 goal scorer. Yes, finally crossed that barrier, and then went ahead and tacked on an extra one just cause. And I like that. Heather, sometimes the puck just hits you from Groove with Piper. It does do that. It does do that. Love that. Love that quote from Grubauer. That is fantastic. It's. I'm so happy for him, and I'm happy that he's enjoying it. Right, like that quote tells me that he's enjoying this, and he's enjoying having a game like this one. And I'm really happy to see that. That is fantastic. El Bell Gru deserved this start and performance. Super happy for him, and super happy that Joey should finally get a bit of rest. Yeah, and I think that this is important for the Kraken to see that Grubauer can do this. He can come in, you can get a win against a team like Utah. He can fight through traffic. He can hang in there. He can make the big saves. He can steal you maybe a goal saved above expected here or there. I think that that's big for the coaching staff as far as their ability to maybe start working, pulling back Joey just a little bit. I think Joey he's allowed a lot of goals, right? They haven't necessarily all been on him. But in these last, handful of starts for Joey, there's been a lot of goals scored against him, and you just gotta worry about the burnout and everything like that. And I know we're very close to the offseason. Season's almost over, all of that stuff. But he is your goalie of the future. You don't want to. Every game is still wear and tear on hips, knees, ankles, right? Like you just don't need to do it if you don't have to. And thankfully, stuff like this should give the coaching staff a little bit more comfort in maybe holding Joey out of some games down the stretch here. Daniel, are we sure Gru isn't going to play his way out of a buyout? Yes, just because of the money. Like I said, with Joey's extension kicking in and Grubauer's contract, you're talking, like $11 million in net. It's just too much. It's just too much. Like very few teams are able to make that work. And if the Kraken want to get better elsewhere on the ice and have some of that money that they have, right? Because they got like what, 20 million in cap space, but they got to re-sign Riker, Evans, and Capo Caco. That's going to chew up some of that money. If you want to be able to go out there and either trade for a top tier player or try to sign one in free agency, you're going to need all the cap space that you can get. And I just don't think that having 11 or a little over 11 locked up in the crease is a way to be able to do that. Unfortunately. Sean, forget the tank, make the moves in the offseason and it won't matter. Great effort all around against a team with something to play for. That's true. Utah definitely has something to play for. Like they should have come into this game very much kind of desperate and playing with energy and passion and really going for it. And they came out pretty flat. Kraken able to take advantage of it with that opening play I talked about with Stevenson taking that shot and getting the shot off the pads for Ellie Tolvanen there. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Utah's ready yet. I just think they're too young. I just don't know that they're ready yet for this one. And then Daniel, what was Utah doing in the neutral zone to make it look like there was space, then make it go away? They were just kind of creating like kind of false gaps. I'd have to go back and see it again. But I think what they were doing was they were kind of lining up with their, let me get the whiteboard. If I'm remembering correctly, what I think they were doing was they were having their defensemen really kind of play to the boards a little bit, and so they were trying to create the appearance of gaps more towards the middle. And then what they were doing is they were having like their center or their F1 in the their forechecking system, because I think they were doing a 2-1-2, so kind of two forwards up, one in the middle, and then two defensemen back. They were having those defensemen really kind of play off to the boards, leave a lot of available area to enter the zone if the Kraken are coming down, to enter the zone through the middle of the ice. And then that F1 was doing kind of a good job of kind of stepping in last minute and trying to plug that hole while then the defenseman swung in from the sides. That's kind of what I'm remembering from the game. Is I remember kind of seeing that a couple times, and that center, that F1 just has to buy a little bit of time, and then the defenseman, because they kind of know like once once the Kraken player has really committed towards the middle of the ice, right? Once they make that initial move, the defenseman's already starting to swing over. And so all that F1 has to do is just force that Kraken player who's coming to the middle, just has to force them to have to make a step back out. And all of a sudden you're stepping right into one of the defensemen who have swung back over from the boards. So it was an interesting kind of version of the 2-1-2 there. You don't really see teams line up and have their defensemen that kind of far off to the boards like that. Like that's just not something that you generally see. You usually see them want to be more in the middle, but it's also why there were times where the Kraken could really kind of catch them in like 2-on-1 situations, because if they were able to get past that center in the middle of the ice, the other defenseman's kind of way out of the play because he's still way over towards the side. And then once that center is taken out of that play as well, if you're able to get around them with speed, it's just the one defenseman on the one side you're coming in on. And that's why I think we got so many of those kind of like periphery 2-on-1 chances where like the Kraken are really kind of off to the side. Like the opening goal is kind of a good example of that, right? And I think that's why we saw those plays. Hopefully that all made sense. It's been having to really shake off the rust and brush off the cobwebs there with the whiteboard and my explanation skills there, but hopefully that made sense for everybody. Super chat here from Light. Jess's jersey went for $10,305. Holy cow. That's right, it was Jess's jersey. That's an insane amount of money. I mean, good on whoever has it to be able to go out and do that, and congrats to the One Roof Foundation, which is going to be able to put that to good work. But like that's a crazy amount of money for sure. I can't see that that record kind of going away for a while. I just can't imagine that's gonna be it. That's really there. That is a high amount. That is a high amount. Very, very worthwhile though. Very worthwhile. Byron, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If the front office is changing their decisions based on single game performances, they should be fired yesterday. I don't think that they're that reactive. I don't think that they are either. Yeah, no, with something like Grubauer and what they're doing in that, like I said, he's got to get bought out. There's just no way around it. Nice night for net front presence. That was refreshing from Jeddah. Yes, it was. I would love to kind of give all of the credit to the Kraken, and I will give some credit to the Kraken. They definitely did do a good job of going there, but I do think some of that was also on the Utah defense, not being very good at getting rid of them once they were there. I think it was a little bit of both things working in tandem there that allowed us to have that. Hockey for Kako 8x8. I don't know that you have to go as high as 8 on that second number. I think you could probably get him for cheaper. So I'm all on board with that. But definitely can't wait for them to extend him. Leo, the last few games really make me think, what if Ebbs had not been playing with a broken hand all last season? Yeah, I mean, he's looking so much better this season after that. And then, obviously the big shame that was him being out for so much of the season with the hip injury. But yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, go look at Austin Matthews right now. Like, I don't know that his wrist is broken, but he obviously has a wrist injury that's affecting his performance this season. And he does not look like the same player at all. Talked about that on the Red Glare on Patreon earlier today. Just does not look the same at all. Like when in hockey, where so much of what you're doing, whether it's passing the puck, shooting the puck, being able to play defense using your stick, your hands and your wrists are just seeing all of that. And the ability for you to, make those quick movements is so important. And if you're dealing with a broken bone or torn ligaments or partially torn ligaments in your wrist or anything like that, you can play through that pain and you can still make the movement, but you can't get the same like kind of level of strength on it. You can't do it at the same speed that you're normally able to do it, right? Like if you're just not at 100%, your performance is just not at 100%. None of those actions that you're taking are going to be at 100%. It just makes a huge, huge difference. I'm with you. I mean, good on Jordan Eberle for fighting through the hip injury this season, getting back out there and starting to play good hockey like he was at the beginning of the season. Like he's really back now. It took him a little while, which is to be expected given the significance of his injury, but he's definitely back now. But yeah, I'd be very happy to see Gruby take at least half of the starts the rest of the way this season, give Joey his rest and give Gruby a chance to show what he can do. Yeah, I don't know that we'll see half the starts, but if he got a third of the starts down the stretch, like I think that's good. Like that's got to be bigger than, and more than what we were looking at the last little bit. So I'm absolutely on board with like a third of the starts down the stretch here. Like give him another 4 or 5. I'm trying to think how many games they got left. Probably, what, 14 or so. I'd definitely be on board with that. Let's see. Like this is one of those fun. This was one of those wins that was worth it. 60 fun minutes. Can't hate that for sure. Definitely can't hate that. Kaylin, I love Cartier's physicality when they were going after McCann. We need that protectiveness. Yes, like seeing that. We're starting to see more of that this season, but we'll see. We'll see. Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think they're getting it more and more, and I think that the guys that they're adding to the team are more and more kind of in that vein. And I think that we're going to see kind of more of that as guys from Coachella Valley come up, because I feel like that's more so the culture down there. And so I think as more and more players from down there make their way up to the NHL, we'll see more and more of that culture kind of follow them. But yes, I'm liking seeing that come in here. Let's see more talk about all the goalie stuff and everything here. But yeah, I'm fine with them winning as long as the wins are at home. Like we as fans deserve the joy of being able to see that for sure. I mean, Kraken fans, he had season 2, but there has not been a lot of great play and season stuff for the home crowd in the Kraken's existence here. Certainly not with how much they charge you to get in the building. So that is important. That is important. Um, Earhead, remember Team Tank? It's a draft lottery. More important to develop these young guys we have. It's a roll of the dice if we get a top 4 pick. Anyhow, it's true, but you still want to give yourself the best chance at that. And the top 4 players this year have the chance to be special. And there is something to be said for, if you're in this spot and you're out of it anyway, you should try to get the special players that can really help change the fortunes of the franchise. I know that's been something RJ's been kind of talking about more and more, and I'm right there with him. And like that would be the thing that I would say for any pushback on Team Tank. Like there is a reason that teams do decide to go through these rebuilds and they do decide to tank. Not that any of them would admit it, and it's because it does pay off. There's kind of no denying that. Michael, I hate these regional blackouts. Hopefully it'll be on ESPN Plus tomorrow. Count me as a team win fan. Will do, Michael. And yes, it should be on ESPN Plus tomorrow. Yeah, it does. It is unfortunate that ESPN Plus doesn't have the games because they're in region. But if you have Amazon Prime, you can stream it on Amazon Prime and watch the games that way. If you're looking for a streaming option. So there is at least that this year. I mean, it's still so much easier to watch than before. Bryce, didn't want to bring up anything negative right away, but I want Berkey away from Newman after that hospital pass. It wasn't a great pass. That is definitely true. I will say on that play, like the pass from Berkey wasn't great. I wouldn't call it a suicide pass, but it was kind of getting into that territory which you don't want. And I think Edzo correctly brought that up. I will say though, Yanni could have just dumped that puck in too. Like once he received the pass, I think I would have told him to just go ahead and dump the puck into the zone, and he could have kind of saved himself some trouble there. But I think that that's just something that he'll learn as he, kind of gets going, as he gets more and more comfortable at the NHL level and everything. That's just something that he should pick up in those situations there. But yeah, he Berkey didn't have a good game in this one. He was worse. I will say that. Kylie, last 4 games since the trade deadline have all been really entertaining. They have been, and I really do wonder how much of this was because of the team meeting, right? The players meeting with Brandon Montour, Matty Bediers, and Jordan Eberle. I really do wonder how much of it came down to that, and them just maybe talking to everybody and just being like, "Hey, let's finish the season strong. Let's give effort. Let's go out there and let's try." The organization just got rid of the guys that they could. They're going to be calling up young players, right? They'd already seen that with Melanson in the lineup for a game. I'm sure they probably had an idea that Yanni Newman call up was coming. I mean, Braun had been hinting at it, and the Kraken still have another call up to make this season. They'll have that 4th call up to use here down the stretch. I'm sure that that was probably one of the things mentioned in that players only meeting, in that players meeting. So I do think that it's one of those things where it really woke everybody up, to which I would say that's fantastic. Like, they deserve a lot of praise for doing that and a lot of credit for doing that. Can we please see it earlier next year? Like, this is the second year in a row where it's come in like late, like very late. And I would love to see that in like early January, when things are, you're coming off a bad December and things aren't looking great, but you still technically have time to turn it around and maybe try to get back in there. I would like to see something like that at this point. I that's kind of where I'm at, but I definitely think that's why we're seeing these entertaining games, Kylie, here post deadline. Is I really think the players have just had a little extra pep in their step, and they're going out there and they're executing better than they were. They just seem more focused than they were prior to that. That's just kind of what I feel. And I see Jason here. I feel like that team meeting was really Monty taking the leadership of the team, and he's backing it up on the ice. Yeah, I mean, it was Monty, Ebbs, and Matty Beniers. Like, he was just the one that spoke about it to the media. So we've really been associating it a lot with him. But Jordan Eberle is captain of the team. I'm sure he was heavily involved in making it happen. Matty Beniers has an A on his sweater. I'm sure he was heavily involved in making it happen alongside Brandon Montour. So I really think the credit goes to all three guys there, and anybody else that was involved in it too. And also credit to the team for responding to it. Like, there's that should also kind of go out there, I think. Let's see. Let's see. Lots of talk around all the tanks, all the like the tanking and all of that kind of stuff. It's yeah, no, it's it's tough. Like I said, the bottom line is it's a really crummy situation, but it's the situation that it is, where the only way to get those legit superstar level players, right, or the most consistent way to end up with them anyway, is to draft high, is to be picking first overall, second overall, right, in that spot. And the way to do that, even though there is a lottery, it's to be as bad as possible. And so yes, the system promotes, if you are not going to be a good team, it promotes you being as bad as possible. Like that is kind of the way things are. It has become a league of extremes, where you have the teams that really try to load up and go on their cup runs once they have their core, and then if you don't have a core, your best option, like just your legit best option, is to then be as bad as possible, so that you can then build your next core and get as good of players as possible that way. It's just an unfortunate reality of how the NHL works right now, and there's just kind of there's no in between solution. Free agency, trades, you can try to work those things, but they are just not as consistent. And you're going to be, free agency wise, you're getting players that are older. You're not going to have as long a window with them. You're paying them a lot more money, so you can acquire fewer of them versus young players on ELCs and second contracts and stuff. And so I totally understand where fans are coming from, where the idea of tanking is just so, it's just like the antithesis of like sport and competition, where you're going out there to try your best and to try to win. And I do think that that's what the players are doing. And I do think that there's, it's what the coaching staff is doing and all of that stuff. It's just that in the larger picture, when you're looking at the long-term growth of the franchise and growth of the core of the franchise, the system just rewards the opposite. And it's just unfortunate, and it's just the way it is, unfortunately. And I get that it's not fun. Like, I absolutely get that it's not fun and that it sucks, and it, like I said, it feels very backwards, but it's just the way it is. And so I understand both sides of it. Like I said, I know logically it's better for the team to be bad and for them to tank, but I'm still there cheering on the wins, and I get excited when they score, and I get excited to join these and have the disco dance parties and do all of that. So I very much understand where everybody's coming from, and I get it. If you're a season ticket holder, you want to see wins. If you're going to a game and you can kind of only afford to get into the building once or twice a season, you want to see a win in that one. Or you live in a different city and Kraken only come to your town once a year, and you go to that game and you want to see them play as good as possible. Like, I so understand all of this and where everybody's coming from. It's just that, like I said, that that other part of me gets the other side of it too, where this is just how all these top teams are built, and yeah, it's just weird. It's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate, is what it is. Zach, refs this homestand giving us a taste of playoff hockey as a treat. Boy, did they swallow their whistles there at the end of this game. Oh boy, they were not going to call anything at the end there. Credit to the Kraken for finally kind of realizing that late and just going for it. Utah kind of picked up on that. And, if you're Utah, you were down 3-2 at that point anyway. So you might as well try, right? You might as well start going for questionable things, see if they're going to call them. Refs decided not to call them. So you now have the green light. And then the Kraken realized a little bit later on, they also had the green light. That being said, I still felt like, and I'm generally in favor of that, like refs not calling close or questionable calls late in a game. Like, I don't like when games are decided by the refs. That being said, some of these were not that questionable, and they probably should have been penalties. Just saying, they definitely should have been. Let's see. Burn crime. Keeping Grew is expensive, but keeping Berkey is what I think. Look, I would, if it was me, I would buy out both of them. I think that it makes the most sense financially. It makes the most sense from opening up the roster spot in the forward group and everything. I'm getting the feeling, and I know RJ and I talked about this after last game, just kind of getting the feeling that they're probably not going to buy out both contracts, because the optics on it are pretty rough when you buy out two free agent contracts that you signed if you're Ron Francis, and I'm not sure that we're going to see that happen. Sean, is anyone else concerned about Kakko being offer sheeted? Already been talked about in Chicago media. Really do not understand why he has not been wrapped up yet. A lot of times players don't like negotiating mid-season. So it may be that Ron Francis is totally on board, and I'm sure Ron Francis is on board, given that he traded for Kaapo Kakko. There's no way that he would have traded for somebody like Kaapo Kakko and doesn't want to re-sign him and doesn't want to be aggressive about re-signing him. I just know a lot of times in these situations, more often than not, it is the player that does not want to negotiate and go through that process during a season. They just want to be able to focus on hockey, focus on all of that stuff. For a young player like Kaapo Kakko as well, given the situation he was in New York, going to his second ever franchise, right? The Kraken is the only other franchise. This is the first time he's ever moved in the NHL and all of that stuff. I could very easily see him being somebody who does not want to go through the negotiation process during the season, just wants to get familiar with Seattle, get familiar with the organization, find out what his role on the team is going to be long-term, all of that stuff before he ends up actually going through the process of working on that extension with Ron Francis and everything. And obviously he has every right to do that. And like I said, a lot of players do that because they just want to focus on the hockey and they don't want negotiations kind of hanging over their head, even though they're not the one like in the room negotiating with Ron Francis. Their agent kind of handles that. It is still something where the agent's got to hit them up and talk to them about the offers that they're receiving and what sort of trade protections and all of that stuff that goes into a contract. They do have to, sign off on that at some point, right? And so I get why players don't want to do that. It would not surprise me in this scenario at all if Kaapo Kakko is just like, we'll deal with that mid to late April once the season's over. Just like we saw with like Maddie, where Maddie was and the team were just kind of like, you know what, it's been a tough year. We'll reconvene in August and we'll get something done and we'll figure it out then. And both team and player were like, okay, that's fine. We'll kind of kick the tires back and forth maybe throughout the offseason, but we'll really get serious about it before training camp, and we'll get it done before training camp. Like, that's just sometimes the way that guys want to handle it. But I definitely do not take the lack of action there as Ron not wanting to do something, right? Like that is definitely not what this is, for sure. Let's see. El Bell, I was chatting with a little kid today who was wearing a Kraken jersey and was asking him who his favorite player is. He said Grew. I like to believe it was an omen for this game. That is a very auspicious sign for this one. That is definitely fantastic. And El Bell, not worried about Kaapo getting offer sheeted. I can't imagine any team being willing to offer him an amount large enough that we wouldn't be able or willing to match it. Yeah, and he doesn't have a huge body of work that would warrant a large offer sheet. So I also don't think we have to worry about it in that regard. Like any offer sheet he would sign is probably going to be in the same ballpark that Ron Francis is probably thinking with him, because it's just teams betting on his draft pedigree and the change of scenery from New York being good for him, which again, Ron has already bet on that by making the trade for him. So I don't see anybody out there offering him like $7 million and doing it that way. I just can't see that being the case. Let's see, Lindsay, there's still plenty of time to lose, and we have games in hand on Nashville. This is coming from Team Taken from season 1, Pain for Shane era. Yes, and RJ talked about that on the Red Glare earlier. Like that was an example of the Kraken losing that last game of the season against Winnipeg, the rescheduled game against Winnipeg. Them losing that game is what landed Shane Wright. So we all right, RJ.
Trying to figure out why I can't hear you. Sorry, Dylan. Hang on.
Gonna say, all right. We'll get him. Get him at some point. Did you hear me?
Why can't I hear you?
Why can't you hear me? I don't know.
Hang on. Be right back.
Okay. Monty has always been the one who spoke to the refs and linesmen while Ebbs is out. Let's see. Sorry, it just jumped on me because RJ left. I hope he has an A I can put on my jersey too next season. He's a natural leader. He's definitely a natural leader. And if they decide to keep 4 A's, I'm with Kylie, who says Monty will get gourds. I definitely agree with that. And he's definitely a guy behind the scenes that definitely does not he deserves it. He definitely deserves it. This will be the last time that I talk about the tank thing here, but it's just because Burnt Creme kind of as saying this. Tanking mindsets for losers. Find a cup champion that tanked a decade or even before. Chicago during their dynasty, Pittsburgh, and building up the 3 Stanley Cups that they ended up winning. Those are 2 examples of teams that went through long rebuilds and picked early and went through tanks and ended up being successful for it and getting rewarded for it. Florida, right? You look at their roster and there's a lot of high draft picks on that roster that they took. Barkov 2nd overall, Aaron Ekblad 1st overall, right? Like it goes back a ways, but you actually look at like most Stanley Cup champion teams, a significant portion of their core is built around very high draft picks, like top 5 draft picks. So it like I said, it is the way. It is the way. As much as we don't want it to be, it is just the way. All right, RJ, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. That's very important. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you sound terrible.
Great. Okay, cool.
We'll make it work. We'll run with it. You said you had good stuff from the guys. Lay it on us.
I do, and again, sorry if I sound terrible. Am I too quiet, too loud? I can try like projecting or not.
You're very like tinny. Like it's just the quality's bad.
Dang. Okay. Well, sorry about that. Anyway, okay. Let's see if I can do something about that.
A lot of white noise around you as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, is this any better?
Yeah, you're quiet, but it's better.
Can you hear me? Well, let's try and make it work. Yes, okay. I can hear you. Let's try and make it work.
Okay, go.
Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so great stuff we'll start with Ellie Tolvanen. I know. We'll start with Ellie Tolvanen because he hits the 20-goal milestone in this game. I mean, normally that doesn't mean a whole lot to a player, hitting a milestone like that. Just about every time you ask a guy about something like that, it's like, yeah, it's whatever, but good to get the team win. But it actually meant a lot to him hitting 20 goals in this one. He said he felt like he was kind of in his head last season trying to hit that 20-goal mark. He said that I had hit 18 goals with 15 games to go, and I just couldn't get it. And he said he had 18 goals each of the last 2 seasons and just couldn't hit that mark, which he did actually have 16. I hate to correct him there, but he had 16 each of the last 2. But he said last season that, he said he started strong, but his last 30 to 40 games he felt were just awful. And it feels a lot better to just kind of play well the whole way through. Also kind of funny moment, Jeff Baker was asking him, so, how close are you with Capo Kakko, of course, being a fellow Finn? And it happened to be right as Capo was walking right through the room. As Jeff asked the question, they both kind of looked over at each other, and Kakko just smiled like, yeah, how close are we, buddy? So, Tolby says it's great to have another Finn in the room, someone who speaks the language, but it was kind of funny just having Kakko right there.
Yeah, no, that is definitely good. That is definitely good. Got a question here from Bryce. RJ, did you ask Dan what he thinks about peanut butter?
I did not ask Dan what he thinks about. I don't know what the whole peanut butter thing is, and it's rare because normally, Dylan, we're together in the building for a home game, so either we both hear the broadcast or neither of us do. I don't know what the peanut butter situation is. I don't get it at all. I included it in the post-game tweet just because it seemed like everybody else would be in on the joke. What is the story with the peanut butter? Chat, tell me. Dylan, tell me.
It's just because Eddie Olczyk was there for this one, and Utah made a play that he thought was smooth, and so he referenced it as though it was peanut butter for some smooth peanut butter, and that started a whole debate about chunky and smooth and all of just everything. And then you know how the two of them are, John and Eddie, right? Like they cannot let something go. They can't let it go.
Okay, so smooth like peanut butter, I guess. That's the joke there. Okay, well. Do you like smooth or chunky peanut butter, Dylan? You may have been asked this already.
Smooth all day long. Like I'm with John and JT. Team smooth peanut butter all day. Okay, team smooth. Sorry everyone. I kind of like chunky. I feel like we have to disagree on just about everything as far as personal taste. I already fight about this with Julia all the time. So very, very.
Okay, Julia, team crunchy. I see that in chat. Yeah, love to see it.
But everybody in here, Viren, I also don't get it, and I watched the whole broadcast. Kylie, OMG, it went on forever. Burnt creme, boomer humor. I always feel bad for JT. And yes, in case you bring it up, they brought up dogs eating peanut butter and lots of peanut butter things. It went on forever.
I'm sure it did. I am sure it did. Did it at least stop when this game got really exciting at the end?
No, it went on forever. Like I cannot stress that this was a first, second, and third period discussion on the broadcast. All right. Any ideas on things like around Shane Wright, Yanni Newman, anything like that from Dan? Shane Wright over the 15-minute mark in this one, played more than Yanni Newman. Felt like Yanni Newman took a step back after that great debut game that he had. I imagine he'll still be around for that next game, but I do wonder if maybe we see a little shakeup in the lineup. Maybe something like I floated the idea earlier of Shane centering McCann and Yanni Newman, get McCann moved back over to wing. Maybe that helps him out a little bit. I don't know. It's not a good sign that you just took out your earbuds.
Okay, on Yanni Newman, nothing on Shane Wright from Dan, but on Yanni Newman, as of course this slide stops working again. On Yanni Newman, he said that he's basically asked, what does he like and what does he not like about his game through two games? And he's like, well, what I like, the shot, the shot, I really like it. He said he had a good opportunity kind of coming in from the face-off dot earlier this game. He said he ripped it wide, but he ripped it. So he likes the shot and, didn't have too much to say on Newman's game kind of beyond that, but just the confidence and things like that. I understand he didn't really want to be critical of any of Newman. I agree. Maybe took a little step back in this one, but that's to be expected in someone's second career game.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I just wonder if we see a lineup shakeup like that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Can you hear me?
All right. I'm going to try and adjust this so I hear you.
Okay.
You go on and talk.
All right. I really do wonder if we see something like that, everybody, and kind of where
now I can hear you.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the lineup? Do you think we see any changes for the last game of the homestand?
I mean, I think we might see a minor change, maybe Riker Evans coming back in or something like that. But as far as the forward lines are concerned, I mean, Dan really liked the effort from everybody. I mean, he said it was kind of a grindy game, a mucky game, and he loved just the work that everybody put in, especially the top line. They all thought Schwartz's no goal went in. Capo Caco thought it went in. I even thought it went in from up at the press box at first. And so that kind of caught everyone off guard, but he loved how they were resilient. And then that line goes out and scores the eventual game winner. And he thought Matty had a bunch of good chances too. So that's staying together. But I just think he liked the effort so much that maybe he just keeps things as they are.
All right. I mean, it's his lineup. With that goal that almost went in from Jaden Schwartz, did it not make a ting as it went off the bar?
It did not. No, it made a sounded like hitting that back middle bar on the net, and that's what I thought it hit. And even watching it live, I usually have a good angle and usually get these things right. I was so sure it went in. Everybody was.
Yeah,
it's not often that you get the goal light, the goal horn, the celebration, everyone going to the bench, the ref, the players all thought it was in, and it didn't. Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah, it was a weird one for sure. With everything that happened there, I could see how the angle would trick people, but then once I saw it, I was like, didn't it make a sound? Like that would be how you would
No, it
also
did
kind of
not make
clue in.
the telltale post sound.
Yeah, interesting. With other things in this one, I mean, Kraken scoring right away, first minute of the game. They're now, thanks to I believe it was Light in the Discord, they passed the Florida Panthers for the most goals in the first minute of a game this season. 6 times this season they have scored a minute into the game, RJ, and I loved it so much. I'm calling it a pass off the pads. It's not the
You've been
most like
asking for this.
technical. Yeah, it was not the most technical like pass off the pads. It was kind of more like a rebound, but still, I'm going to count it because I've been asking for it for so long, RJ, and I just wonder if this will finally be the catalyst that'll get them to do it a little bit more often.
I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you, but it certainly worked. And hey, you know what? It was Chandler Stevenson who did it. I like the decision making there, and especially because he didn't wait. And as a guy who's a playmaker, right, it can be tempting to kind of hang on to that puck, see what opens up, because it just happens so quickly. Bang, bang off that turnover, right? It goes to Tolvanen, and he picks up that puck, hands it right to Stevenson, and he has to know right away what to do with it. Just throws it on net, and I think this game shows good things happen when you throw the puck toward the net. You see that on the Montour goal as well.
Oh, definitely. What did you think of the special teams in this one? Because it felt like when the Kraken were able to get set in the offensive zone, things looked really well, look really good, and things were going really well, especially with that power play unit that has Matty Beniers, Brandon Montour, Yanni Newman, that group. But boy, when they can't get set, these power plays, man, it's like nothing happens for 2 minutes.
Yeah, they were struggling a bit with the entries and everything once it got cleared, but I feel like that's been a story for the Kraken power play kind of throughout the season in spurts, right? Is when they can get set up, they can create some looks, but when they can't, it can get really ugly. I do love that unit with Yanni Newman on it through 2 games. I just feel like it has an extra dimension that we haven't really seen, having a proper one-timer threat over there. And even after just 1 game, teams have to respect it. You can tell Utah's watching their film and they know to watch out for Yanni Newman, and that's really cool to see, just to have that kind of threat there. But I kind of agree with your assessment on the power play.
Yeah. And also, was it Maddie taking the draws, at least when like they were starting on the right side? I thought that was interesting given that Chandler Stevenson's part of that unit.
Right. I was interested to see that, and maybe it was they were going to a specific place with the puck, but I tend to think of Stevenson as versatile enough to kind of get the puck wherever it needs to go off the draw. I mean, you saw that last game, in overtime, right? He can push it forward. He can do whatever you want. But I was curious about that. I didn't, we didn't ask or have any explanation on that. That's probably maybe more of a better practice question. But yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That being said, neither of them had a good face-off game. Chandler Stevenson actually worse than both Maddie or Shane on the face-offs today. 38.9% for Chandler Stevenson. Not often we see him below 40%.
No, and it was kind of troubling for me, especially with Matty Beniers in the D zone. There were a couple plays where oh my gosh, Utah. Oh man, that's really bad. Utah will line up. I'm just thinking Clayton Keller, and there's one team I associate him with. But Utah will line up for the faceoff, and usually it's like Schmaltz taking it to his right side, and Keller is just lined up right on the edge of the circle, looking for either that one time or the pass back to Sergachev at the point. And they won those clean a few different times to generate some dangerous chances. Those were some scary moments.
Yes, they were. How about that sequence, though, where after the Capo Caco goal and the Kraken are able to go up 3-2, Utah puts on a heck of a push to try to get back in that game. And you have that prolonged sequence. It was about like a minute in the defensive zone. Brandon Montour had been caught out there. He's over 2 minutes time on ice at the point by the time he's able to get off the ice. Vince Dunn is almost at like a minute 30 by the time he's able to get off the ice. The Shane Wright line was out there defending. I thought that was one of, if not the best sequences of just a 5-man unit working in the defensive zone for Seattle this season.
I agree, and everybody was working, and it's one of those things in hockey that just you're going to have pushes from the other team at certain points, especially key points in a game like that, where if you're facing a team that you can just dig down and put on a push after allowing the go-ahead goal, you have to be able to respond. I thought the Kraken did a great job of that, and you said 5-man unit, but we got to talk about the goalie as well, Philip Grubauer, and I know you guys probably talked about it immediately off the start of this post game. but Philip Grubauer came up huge in that sequence, and you need your goaltender to be at his best in something like that. And Dan had very good words to say about Philip Grubauer and his game. He also just talking about the third period, like said, chaotic, I think was the word he used. It was just chaos. And he said, you kind of like the tempo of that, if you're watching it as a fan or whatever, but it was just completely chaotic. And I think Philip Grubauer agreed at the end there. And I do wonder too, if spending that time in the AHL, remember what he said about it, what the difference between the AHL and the NHL is. There's a lot more kind of chaotic situations, and net front, you'll see a lot of those different things. And I think Gru adjusted to that well.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good poll with what he had talked about when he first got back up. I like that. Like the very odd thing tonight was that the Kraken won the expected goals battle, which tells me a lot of Utah shots look scary, but were very low danger. They were held to the perimeter a lot by the Kraken defense in this one. Utah kind of wants to play to the perimeter anyway. They've got a lot of shooters. They want to take shots. But there was a lot of shots in this one that were to the perimeter. Now, again, still credit to Grubauer. Yes, those are lower danger chances, but he did have to kind of fight through a lot of traffic in this one, and he did a good job of still being able to see the puck there.
Yeah, the puck tracking was really impressive from him. I thought the rebound control, especially for shots up high, was impressive. The way he was able to kind of clutch some of those to his blocker up high was really good. And then when they did get in close, just the aggressiveness too. This feels different from him, doesn't it, Dylan? In the way that he's kind of lining up and moving side to side and just being really aggressive at the top of his crease. That feels like a big change to me. I know goalies don't like to go into the intricacies of what they've changed in their game. And, Gru is no different. He won't really talk about the details of what he and Steve Briere are working on, but it feels like that's a change that we've seen from him, where he's getting out, being more aggressive and trusting himself there as well. And we did get to talk to Grubauer after the game. And so you alluded to that a little bit as kind of, sometimes when a guy's walking down Main Street, he said, you have to get out that extra little step just to cut down the angle. And that seems like something that he's very aware of. And as far as just his game overall, too, he said it just really helps to get into a rhythm. Like, that's what he attributed the success to, is just playing games, getting into a rhythm. He said it's really hard when you have to just sit for 25 games, but, that's what your job is to go in there and sit. But it helps a lot when you don't have to do that.
Do you think, based on the performance tonight and kind of just how he's looked since being back, that this should give the coaching staff a little bit more confidence in maybe starting him and pulling back a little on Joey?
It should. I mean, he's played 2 really good games, not just solid, but really good games in a row. And so I think he's certainly earned another start sooner rather than later. And, you look at Joey too, he just looks burned out. We kind of talked about it after last game, but and it's really not necessarily Joey's fault, but he's playing too much hockey and he needs a rest. And so having a Philip Grubauer that you can feel comfortable starting and going to, and not just that he won't screw it up and cost you the game, but that he might actually make some clutch saves to help win you the game. That's huge.
Oh, for sure. It is. And then he also had this great quote that several people threw in chat earlier when he was talking with Piper after the game. Sometimes the puck just hits you.
That's great. Love that from him. And as a goalie, I mean, that's the kind of thing I've heard from our buddy Darren with Sound of Hockey, because he also plays goalie at a different level. But he's like, sometimes you just know, like, when it's going right for you, the puck's just going to hit you. And other times, it's going to whiz right by you and go into the net. And there's not a whole lot you can do. Goaltending, I don't know, it just feels like it's a lot about that.
It is. As it sounds like the Zamboni car alarm is going off.
Oh yeah, that's going on.
Byron, Allison Sport Logic expected goals 1.9 for Seattle, 2.8 for Utah. So expected goals really changes depending on whose platform.
Yeah, I noticed it was very different on like Money Puck and Natural Stat Trick.
Interesting. I wonder why. Like, I wonder what about the game, like the different sources kind of key in on that gives them such varied numbers like that.
Yeah, I just something. I mean, like whether it's puck passing before the shot or whatever, just something, or the individual players that are taken into account. I don't know, but the differences are pretty staggering too. We had a bit of conversation about this on the Discord too, where Viren brought up the Sport Logic expected goals model and how they really differed from Natural Stat Trick over the course of the season, and like given a Ron Francis quote. So I appreciate Viren bringing that up.
Yeah. And then Jeffrey, I almost wonder if Gru plays Sunday, just given the performance that he had today. I mean, probably not against Winnipeg.
Yeah, probably not. I would imagine so. But like, if they do decide to go with him, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
No, I wouldn't either. Like,
rest Joey as much as you can. I don't think I'll have a problem with resting Joey for a game at any point the rest of this season.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I said I think Grubauer's probably worked his way into that conversation where we see him start like a third of the games down the stretch, right? Like that still seems like kind of where they'd be at, just as a
No, I
team.
think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Christian, oh, that's a Zamboni alarm. Someone's trying to make a getaway on the Zamboni. Lol.
Oh yeah, they're almost out of the building.
Stop them, RJ. Stop them. What are you doing? Talking to us. Protect the Zamboni at all costs. Do Zambonis have a catalytic converter?
Oh no! Oh no! Not
it
anymore,
larger
Dylan.
than
That one doesn't anymore. I can tell you.
Is it larger than say the average car would have? I wonder. Throw that out there. Anything that you want else that you want to talk about with this game or looking ahead to Winnipeg before we kind of close things out?
I want to give a little shout out to I get Pastor Pickles on Twitter. It was great meeting you at intermission and meeting you and your son, chatting a little bit about Berkeley Catton, and appreciate the support from Spokane. I know you watch all these post game live, so just wanted to give a shout out to you there, and thanks for posting the picture. That was really nice. So wanted to do that real quick. I'm trying to think what else. I felt like there were so many like layers of good stuff from the players, especially from Eeli Tolvanen. Just talk about the pride that he takes also in killing penalties, which is really a new role for him. I mean, he only had about 20 minutes of PK time in his entire career before this season, and he's already up to like 10 to 12 minutes for the Kraken this year. And he said it kind of helps him also just like regulate his game a little bit. He's just, if you can get the PK right, it kind of helps you kind of get even keel with the rest of your game and just like know that you're doing that well. And then Dan, when asked about Tolvi too, just kept pointing to that new role in the PK and how he's kind of expanding his game and all the things that he can do. Really kind of took the focus away from the goals and the 20-goal milestone and all that stuff and brought up the PK a lot, which I do want to ask you kind of more details about in practice.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be a good one there. Kylie Montour and Stevenson did steal the Zamboni and took it through the Starbucks drive-thru in that one video. That is true. Maybe they're going for it again. Maybe that's when they first talked about the overtime face-off play.
Yeah, there it is. That's just cover for the Zamboni theft plans. You score this flashy OT goal, everyone, diverts their attention.
Yes, definitely. And then Chuck, crazy moment at practice today. Jess shot a puck towards Monty that hit him in the skates, went down hard into the boards and stayed down a while, either out of embarrassment or just to mess with her.
Knowing Monty, maybe the latter. I would guess the latter.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I think that's going to do it for this post-game live. One more time, shout out to Queen Anne Beer Hall, and another reminder that our watch party is less than a week away, coming up this next Wednesday, March 19th at 6:30 at Queen Anne Beer Hall. Going to have those tickets to give away. RJ, were you able to secure the other giveaway, the other raffle item?
I was. Yes, I was. And I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to Ray Ann for providing that as well. I know a lucky winner of the raffle is going to really love that.
Okay, I didn't bring up what it was. You can announce it if you'd like to.
Okay.
Or we could keep it a secret, but
no, let's announce it. Hey, it's a good draw here. Let me pull it out. Sorry, I got to keep everything level here. Joey Decord bobblehead. We have a surplus Joey Decord bobblehead we will be giving away at the raffle at the watch party. So everybody, oh man, almost dropped it. Okay, you good, Joey? Okay, you're good. All right. Good. So yeah. So for that, we're giving Kraken tickets, Joey Decord bobblehead, some more cool prizes as well. But looking forward to, and the bag at Caven just fell over the camera. It's all just going
it's all
great
good.
tonight.
Yes, it's all good. We'll let you get out of there.
As
RJ.
Dan said, it's a sloppy game. It's a grindy game. You just got to grind it out, get the win, get the result.
Yes. We'll let you get out of there. Thanks everybody so much for joining us for this one, and we'll see you all next time.